Cool. You know what? Okay, first of all, knock on wood, we've been really fortunate that short of minor injuries, we've never had a major injury. Sorry, I don't have any blood, guts, and gory stories to share. But we definitely, I can guarantee that almost every single person that crosses the finish line is bleeding from somewhere.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm all right. It's getting better weather for running.
Finally, yes. Finally. Speaking of which,
Yes.
I have a story for all of our listeners.
What happened to you on one of the runs?
Well, we like to run on some side roads in the wintertime that are less traveled, right?
Yep. Okay, when you're running on the road, you face traffic.
Of course.
Okay,
Of course.
let's explain that.
Of course I face traffic. Yep. And it's a 2-lane side road with decent shoulder.
Yeah.
So this is not a skinny side road.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
I see a pickup truck coming towards me. And he is in my lane. Like, I'm talking against the shoulder.
So now you have to adjust.
So now I'm thinking, okay, is he gonna pull out into the center? I look behind me. There's no cars coming. So it's not like he couldn't. So within 50 meters of me, he pulls more into the shoulder and then he does a quick swerve out.
Basically attempting to hit you.
Yes. So it felt like, to me,
Attempted murder.
he was going to do one of these, like, side swipe and then, like, to scare me or whatever.
Which has happened to me many times.
And what I actually did, because when I saw him coming towards me and he didn't start to move out, I stopped. Because I thought, okay, do I need to dive into the ditch? Like, what do I need to do here? And it really pissed me off because I'm thinking, guys, I'm one little 5'3" person and you can't figure out how to safely go around me without making a big deal of it?
On a 2-lane
On a 2-lane road
and no other car
coming.
Right, so he had all the time, all the space.
Room in the world.
Yeah, to make his move.
To make his move.
Yeah. And instead he went towards you.
Right.
Interesting.
So now I'm pissed.
Okay.
So I finish my run. I get back in my car.
Yeah.
And this is the road where I go pick up eggs from the farmer.
Okay.
So I go back towards the direction I was running.
Yeah.
I pull in. Now, I forgot to mention this. I looked at his license plate. And his license plate was a vanity plate, and it was easy to remember.
Okay.
So I thought that could come in handy. I get to the farmer's. Guess what?
Oh, the license plate's there.
The license plate's there, and he's talking to the farmer. So I'm sitting in the car going, okay, if I don't say anything, I'm going to be mad at myself.
Yep.
I need to just let him know what he did, how it made me feel.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
Because he probably does it many times.
So and by the way, that day I was wearing gray tights, a blue long sleeve, and my orange Nathan vest.
On a sunny day.
On a sunny day.
Okay.
I get out of the car. I said, excuse me, I was the runner that you just passed on the road there.
That you almost sideswiped.
That you almost hit. And I'd like to know why you did that. And he goes, well, you weren't that bright. And I'm thinking, well, okay, did he just insult my intelligence? But he proceeded to say, I couldn't see you that well. I said, I was wearing a bright orange vest. Well, I was trying to dodge the potholes.
So he felt that protecting his car was better than killing someone.
I guess. I said, well, when you decided to swerve towards me before you went around me, it scared the crap out of me, and I did not appreciate that. He didn't know what to say.
Did you pick up your eggs?
I did. I got my eggs and I got the hell out of there, and I was madder than hell.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as a runner...
That happens to us quite often. When cars don't look one way. They only look one way and not the other because we're running towards traffic. They do not see that something is coming on a direction that they normally would not turn their head to see when they're pulling out of driveways.
But the other thing, too, is the fact that they're protected behind steel and they're going way faster than we are. So for us to make an adjustment when we don't know what they're going to do, it's like you have to predict what the car's going to do, which is why half the time I stop. Because I'm like, I don't know what you're going to do. I need to be prepared to head into the ditch. This is why I prefer to be on the trails. But seriously, I picked the side roads.
Because it's less traffic.
So out of the 5 cars I saw in 45 minutes, 3 of them did something suspect.
Yeah. And also, for all the drivers out there who honk their horn right beside you.
Oh my God.
Even if you know you, just to get your attention, say, hey, Norm or Jody, it's me, it's whoever.
Yeah.
That alone scares you.
It does.
And your mother did that to me one time, and I almost flipped the bird at her, and I had to tell her later, don't do that. Don't honk your horn to get my attention. Tell me later in the day, say, hey, that was me driving by, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Or just say it out the window. Hey, Norm.
But not even long, because you're in the zone, and then all of a sudden, it's like, oh my God. Yeah, okay. Well, that's the road running situation that we do deal with as runners.
All right.
All right. There's your event for today.
There it is.
Who is on the podcast today?
Today we have Andrew Fairhurst. Mm-hmm. He's an ultra runner, adventure racer, and co-race director of Meet the Minotaur Skyrace, which takes place in June in Crowsnest Pass, Alberta. It's a 33.5K route, 2,900 meters of elevation gain, and a 12-hour time limit. 12
hours to run 33K.
What does that tell you?
That sounds like this is a serious up and over
sure does.
situation.
And it's the only North American qualifier for the Skyrunner World Series.
Wow. How did he get this on the Skyrunning's radar?
Let's find out.
Wow, without further ado, here is Andrew coming up. Welcome, Andrew, to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, you guys. I just want to say thanks so much, you guys, for doing this. I look forward to your podcast. I work in a woodworking shop in my day job, and but I have like these Bluetooth headphones, and I've got various podcasts I listen to. But I'm always like, I was excited to come across your guys's, and I'm like, I think it's great, and I love that it's Canadian, and I just love that you guys are so passionate about running, and that you've been doing this as long as you have. Like not the podcast, but just running and being involved. It's pretty cool.
Before we dive into your race directing, I understand, well, let's go back to your ultra running. I understand that you and I did the Canadian Death Race back in 2005, and I'm wondering if we did that race for the same reason. We're trying to get away from adventure racing. Can you tell us about that?
No, yeah, it's funny. I got into sport originally, like with running, actually. So I was just like back in grade 5, joining the little track team and everything like that. And cross-country running was like one of my favorite things to do, being outside in the forest. And then that actually evolved sort of when I finished high school into mountain bike racing. And then I enjoyed that. But I still like to run. Like it was like, I used to tell people I love mountain bike racing, but I really like running. And so that naturally evolved into adventure racing. It was sort of like the 90s when the Eco Challenge was on television. And all these opportunities started popping up with like little 24-hour races. And then, you probably remember the Rate the North Extreme series in Canada and stuff. And like, man, this is unbelievable. This is so much fun to do, and evolved into adventure racing. And then sadly that sort of started tapering off. But I think ultra running started coming about the scene. And I'm like, I may as well give that a go. And sure enough, I'm standing at the start line in 2005 of the Canadian Death Race and looking at all of these like runners around me and everything. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of intimidating. And one guy just like leaned over. He's like, hey, have you ever done an ultra marathon before? I'm like, no, this is my first time ever doing an ultra marathon. He says, oh yeah, but you've done a marathon before. I'm like, no, I've never done a marathon before. And he's like, well, what's your half marathon time? I'm like, I don't even have a half marathon time. And he had me so nervous going up the start line. But you know what? It it was still a fun race, great experience, and it came together for me that day. So
absolutely, you won it basically. Is that?
I did win the race. Yeah, that was maybe just sheer determination and luck, and a lot of lessons there afterwards for sure in terms of nutrition. It's not a good idea to eat a loaded 3-layer meat Subway sandwich halfway through the race, which I sadly lost that on leg 4 going up Hamel. But it was, honestly, it definitely, that race sort of opened my eyes to well, not only the ultra running sport, but just maybe more of like an eye opener to trail running and trail racing. And it sort of went from there. And a bit of history from that, it was actually driving home from that race where my wife and I had just purchased a property in Crowsnest Pass where we now live as a recreational property. And she looked over to me and she's like, we should start a race like that in our community. And one of your previous guests, Brian Gallant, he was my previous business partner. So he and I worked together and created Sinister 7 Ultramarathon, which is still a hugely successful event today with runners from all around the world attending. So It was pretty cool how one little experience like that can lead to some life changes.
Do you know how that guy did that was asking you all the questions? Did you follow up?
I don't know how he did. No, I tried to put him out of my mind at about kilometer 20. So I'm like, that guy's just distracting me. So happy to hear. No, or maybe it was you.
That's why I said you look familiar.
That's right.
Well, it couldn't have been Norm because that was his first ultra.
That was also my first ultra.
That's pretty cool. When I heard you say that at another podcast, I'm like, wow, that's like, kind of a cool thing. And then your adventure racing background, I'm like, that's just like my long lost brother.
What made you want to become a director?
Honestly, I like, well, one, I'm so passionate about sport. I'm not going to lie. Like I love the idea of competition, but further to that, I think I love the mountains and trails and that sort of outdoor environment. And then to extend that to answer your question specifically, it's like, because I love it so much, I want to introduce that to as many people as possible. And I think it's done so many good things in my life for positive outlooks and just good positive lifestyle, respect for the environment and the places that we're at, that I'm like, what a better way there's probably no better way than to introduce people to that environment than the same way that I got into it. And so it was more so like, if these events exist and getting people into places that they may not normally get to, which, not to segue towards Minotaur, but that's really what that type of event has done, is put people into an environment that they're not typically used to, and coming away, like the experience of seeing people cross the finish line, either with massive grins on their face or tears streaming down their face with like this pure joy of like, I just completed that, or whatever it might be. That's when I get all tingly inside and be like, okay, success. We just did something that hopefully changed someone's life.
Exactly.
That's honestly why I do it. It's to try and give those experiences to other people. Period.
Yeah,
sure.
We can understand that for sure.
Yeah, we understand that.
Now, Meet the Minotaur. It's the only North American skyrunning race. Yeah, so Meet the Minotaur is sort of we originated back in 2017 and we called it the Meet the Minotaur, but in 2020 we actually joined the Skyrunner World Series. There's a bit of an evolution between 2017 and 2020, but in 2020 we decided, okay, what we're actually doing here is skyrunning, which has a definition, and so we thought, okay, let's see what we can do to maybe join the World Series, and we had reached out to them. There was a lot of background, of course, back and forth that had to happen. We got our course certified with the International Skyrunning Federation, but we were able to join the skyrunning circuit, and we were the only North American stop in the Skyrunner World Series. So running into and then of course COVID came about, so we actually never got to deliver our event for 2 years. So last year, 2022, was our first official race as part of the Skyrunner World Series. And how did the name come about?
The Minotaur, well, that comes back to our origin, and it's just a really good question. And so I'm fortunate to be part of a really great team. I've got business partners, my wife Erin, and our good friends Ian and Susan. and we all bring different strengths to the table, and different aspects of the business. But my wife is probably more on the creative side. She's a creative writer and graphic designer, etc. And she came up with the idea of Minotaur being like sort of a Greek mythology, when you're stuck in the maze and you had to get out, and before the Minotaur got you. So that's how the Minotaur came about. But it's such a cool name, and we love our logo, that it just carried on into Minotaur Skyrace, and Minotaur Skyrace's evil little sister. We have the Minotaur 10K, which we tout as the hardest 10K in Canada.
Wow.
The 2 events on our race day, which play off of the Minotaur name.
That's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us about this race, the Minotaur. Explain this race to us.
The course for people
for the world to get to, who wants to come do this race. Go explain this race.
Okay, so that's the Minotaur Skyrace. We are, as I said, it's a 33.5-kilometer race course. It's got 2,900 meters of climbing, so just under 10,000 vertical feet of climbing. So that's about 20,000 feet of elevation change, because we start and finish right in the hub of Blairmore, in the Crowsnest Pass. Unlike the other races in the series, which usually have 2 significant climbs, we're probably one of the most technical race courses in the Skyrunner World Series. We've got 3 prominent climbs, the first one being a 900-meter climb, like almost a full vertical kilometer, within the first 5 kilometers at the start of the race.
Wow.
So we definitely play on hitting a lot of the, definitely play on the elevation. So getting up high into the mountains, like well over 2,000 meters, 2,500 meters in elevation, a lot of running ridges, and very rocky technical terrain. So to have a certified course with the ISF, they look at a lot of different factors, as the amount of pavement in the race course, the amount of trail in the race course, and then of course the amount of the amount of distance that's above a certain elevation.
Okay.
And then they also look at the difference between the lowest elevated point in your course and the highest elevated point in the course. Okay. Looking ideally to have at least 1,000 meters of difference between those 2 locations in the race course to meet those standards. So I sort of inadvertently defined how skyrunning may differ than trail running, in that it does get you high in the mountains into more of a technical environment than trail running would. And I don't want to say technical in that you have to have ropes and safety gear and everything, but there are many points in the Minotaur race course that there are like all hands on deck. Like you're not just using your feet, you're having to use your hands for stability or to clamber up and over things. So but yeah, so the race course, 33.5 kilometers long. We allow, well, you both know how long it takes you to run 33.5 kilometers on trail. We allow 12 hours to complete our race course, which gives you an idea of how quickly you're moving through the type of terrain. So it's also a pretty remote race course, because most of our race is off trail and we're up in the mountains and on ridges. Well, to give you an idea, one of our first 2 aid stations are basically remote field camps. We can't drive there, we can't get there. So the week prior to the event is us transporting stuff into that location to set it up to be, we've got a small field hospital, we have the full aid stations, we have a full filtration system for filtering water, because it's not realistic to bring that much water into the remote location. So it's a pretty remote feeling. And in talking to some of the European athletes that came over for the World Series last year, that was probably their biggest takeaway, that, wow, that course was unbelievably technical. And they use the word primitive, because our trails, and we don't have the established trails that you see in Europe, of course. Yeah. And but then this idea of remoteness just that blew them away. Like we weren't running through villages. The course wasn't lined with thousands of spectators up the mountain. It was pretty remote feeling for sure. But yeah.
I have a couple questions. So what's the highest elevation that you get to in the race?
So we get just under 8,000 feet of elevation, and the race starts at 4,250 elevation per feet.
Okay. Do you know what the average finish time is?
Yeah, I could give you an exact average, but just off the cuff, the average finish time was probably between 7 to 9 hours. So,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
In fairness, probably about 7 hours. Sorry, but that's the the fastest time, which is going to blow you away, Damien Humbert, he's from France, and he ran it in 4:06:48 last year, which I know that sounds like a long time for 33K, but when you watch him move, like, and he ended up finishing second in the series, so he pretty strong athlete, but yeah, incredible to see them move as quickly as they do in that type of terrain.
Now, are you cutting people off at aid stations if they're not getting there?
We do. We have,
and where do they go?
Yeah,
that's a good question. We have what we call the escape route. So it's like if they run into aid station 1 and then they're not there by a certain time cutoff, we have a cutoff that sort of sends them back out onto a course, and they connect with a road that then takes them back to the course, and they finish. They get to finish the last part of the race course, but it shortcuts like most of the high segments of the race course. And then we have a second checkpoint, a second cutoff coming into aid station 2, which is the same. If they get there past a certain time, we send them out on the escape route as opposed to the longer leg of the course between aid stations. And yeah.
Wow.
It'd be nice to be helicoptered out.
Sure would. We had a lot of those comments last year. But to answer your question, so there's 13 races in the Skyrunner World Series this year, dispersed amongst 8 countries in the world. So we're the only one in North America. They do have one in South America within a week or 2 weeks of our event, which is pretty exciting.
And of course, the Meet the Minotaur had to have parameters to get into the series.
Certainly did. Yeah, we had to. There's a lot of in terms of the fine print of the contract between us and the Skyrunner World Series, there's a lot of requirements that we must meet. We have a prize podium that's 10 deep. So with cash prizing for those athletes.
Oh wow!
Ranking systems and recording systems that we have to provide, of course. But and then of course the course itself had to meet the skyrunning parameters. So we had to get the course certified outside of Skyrunning, the World Skyrunner Series, which is separate from the International Skyrunning Federation. So we had to have our course accredited through the International Skyrunning Federation, and then be able to come back to the Skyrunner World Series to present our course to say, yeah, we believe we've got suitable material to be a part of this series.
And as a runner, do you have to run so many races in order to be qualified for to win it at the end of the year?
You do, yeah. You have to have a certain number of points and be ranked to race in the finals at the end of the year.
And where is the final skyrunning race taking place?
Norm, that is an excellent question and it's one that I'm not going to be able to answer because the Skyrunner World Series has not even announced where Sky Masters will take place yet.
Oh,
whoa.
Interesting.
So that is interesting. What if they say the Minotaur is going to be the finals this year? Then what do you do?
Well, as a race director, I would probably sweat a few bullets and then.
Well, that's possible because the actual race that's in the finals is probably one of the series they actually raced before, and then they're going back.
Yeah. I would like to think they would give us a little bit more heads up than that. But you know what? I would be honored. That would be quite the. I know myself and my team. We would love that idea.
And you'll get it done, I'm sure.
Absolutely, for sure.
Now, This sounds like a really gnarly race. Tell us some stories about weather-related injury or injuries that may have taken place or any kind of evacuations.
Animals on the course.
Animals on course. Anything that comes, crazy stories that happened during one of your events of the Minotaur.
Cool. You know what? Okay, first of all, we've been, knock on wood, we've been really fortunate that short of minor injuries, we've never had a major injury. Saying that, we have a pretty extensive safety plan in place just due to the remoteness of the course. That does involve helicopters and possible long line rescuing if needed, for sure. So, sorry, I don't have any blood, guts, and gory stories to share. But
well, I'm glad for you. I'm glad for you.
That means you're doing your job.
For sure. But we definitely, I can guarantee that almost every single person that crosses the finish line is bleeding from somewhere.
Good answer. And there's the hook.
It's the nature of the course. It's like, I'm sure you guys have gone running in scree or in talus and rocky terrain, that inevitable rock. Like we do it all the time. We just run down ski slopes, and you're like, I really hope I don't take one off the ankle. But you always take one right off the ankle, and you're like, you just get that nauseous feeling for a second, and roll on with it. But so yeah, it's injuries like that are the most common that we do see on the race course. Is just not cuts and nicks, and we live in a limestone environment on our race course, so it can be pretty sharp, like hands on deck in a lot of places. So yeah, people getting cuts and scrapes, and but we've also seen, as I'm sure you have too, but people cross the finish line and you're amazed that they've run 33.5 kilometers, and then at 33.501 kilometers, their body seizes up instantly and they plop over to the ground and they're done. So, yeah, definitely things like that. And in terms of environment, we live right in the middle of grizzly bear and black bear country. We've got cougars, we've got mountain sheep and goats, and we, knock on wood, have not had any wildlife sightings on our race course. We've had goats and sheep, but that's also something that we do pay respect to. That if there's sheep or goats on our race course, then we have to respect that. If they haven't moved on by race day, then we give them their space to live and be in their environment first before it was ours.
Absolutely.
Also, it's 12 hours. What time does the race start at?
It starts at 7 a.m, so we allow till 7 p.m. that night. So,
is it so? It's all daylight. It
is, because we're close to the summer solstice at June 24th. Yeah, that's done. Unfortunately, like we had some say in terms of our scheduling, but we also had to plunk into the Skyrunner World Series, of course, not to interfere with other ones. But conveniently, I think that works well for us. If I'm wearing my race director hat and thinking about the potential for emergency, as much daylight as possible plays to our advantage for sure.
Now, you have any advice for anyone that's taking this on for the first time? What's the strategy for the average person to take on this course?
Yeah, just give it to me.
Like pretend it's Norm.
Straight up. Well,
I've never done a sky running event, so I'm coming to your race. How am I going to get through it?
Okay, so I'm going to make some assumptions, Norm, that you've obviously got a really good base behind you. You know what it's like to spend time on your feet. I think the thing that gets people in our event is it's honestly the uphills and the downhills. Like the climbs, no one is running the climbs. Like we're pushing grades exceeding 30%. So it's like there could be, there's grades on the course, like for short periods where you have to use your hands and like clamber up through little chimneys. So like those would be like, 80% grades. But saying that though, the thing that usually beats people up the most is the ups and the downs and the technical type of terrain. So in one sentence, if I had to give you a training advice, it's like, make sure you're putting in the vertical, testing your quads for the downs, but also being really comfortable on undulating terrain. Like, terrain that moves underneath your feet, like nothing. Assume nothing is stable when you're running on the race course. So,
good advice.
It's interesting because basically, what I'm thinking, on the average time of 7-8 hours, that's the average time of a 50K.
Yeah.
So therefore, they have to know that they may go in overconfident that it's only 33K, but no, you got to think of it as you're going to be out there pretty much all day.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, actually, no, that's a really good analogy. The 50K timing, that's pretty well bang on. But if I thought about my race course, or if I was to run a 50 right now and then go do the Minotaur course, it'd probably be almost an identical time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us and for reaching out.
Thank you guys likewise. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys and share the sport of skyrunning with you. I think it's a pretty cool thing, and I'm excited about seeing you guys at our start line one day.
Awesome.
Well, I learned a lot about skyrunning because I always felt that I always put skyrunning and ultra running in the same category, but it's not the same category.
No, yeah, it really isn't. You can have ultra sky races where they're going like about that 50K distance, so sort of a combination of the definition, but yeah, they are definitely two different sports for sure.
Interesting. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you guys so much. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys, and And please don't ever forget, like, I'm not just saying this, I'm expecting an email or a phone call one day to say, hey, Andrew, we're coming out your way. So.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we'll make good on that promise.
Yep.
Excellent.
Great. You just added another race to our bucket list. It's getting longer and longer.
That's great.
And best of luck this year.
Yeah, thank you very much. And to you guys, too, with your events.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. We'll keep in touch.
Yeah, likewise.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, I guess we're going to Alberta. You know what, though? This podcast has really been amazing to open ourselves up to people in different places and learning about what their trails are like and the type of running that they do out there. Because I can't imagine every day walking out my door onto this rocky, full of vert, elevation.
Oh, God, I'd love it.
I know. It'd be so great. But I love the fact that we've met so many people.
Yeah.
And we have kept in touch with many of our guests.
Uh-huh.
And we look forward to seeing them at races or whatever the case may be. But I love that's part of this community.
Well, just the fact that we had Elsa McDonald on our podcast and we met her at Moab finally 2 years later.
Yeah. And we chatted like we knew each other because of the pod. So this is cool.
I learned a lot about skyrunning because I always put them together as ultra running / skyrunning, but it's a different category. It's kind of a different sport.
Absolutely.
It's a shorter distance and it's above a certain altitude.
And technical.
Yeah.
I would imagine the ones in Europe are very technical too.
Yeah.
So, because once you get above that elevation, the terrain is totally different. It's not nice paved or pathways,
That's the thing. When I retire from ultra running, I'm going to become a sky runner. And that's
not in Ontario, you're not.
And that's the thing. I'm going to check out the series and where are all these sky running events, 8 different countries.
Well, if they all have 10Ks, then I'm in.
Yeah. And escape routes.
Yeah. No, it was very interesting learning about that because you're right. We don't know much about that.
Yeah. Because I always just felt that it was ultra running, but no, it's not.
No.
So there you go.
Yeah, totally different. Thank you, Andrew.
Well, thank you for bringing this to our attention. All right.
Okay.
And that's it. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.